In a forum recently, I came across the question, should we read outdated books to our children? And it sort of perplexed me a little bit. Outdated. What does this mean? And should we? That's the question I want to answer today. Welcome to Learning Life, and thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, if you like this video, share it with the friends or, comment below. Ask me any questions. Subscribe, because I would love for you to be part of our Learning Life community. Well, this question, should we be reading outdated books to our children? The answer is yes. Oh, you want more than that? Yeah, let's unpack that a little bit. At first, I'm like, well, what do they mean, like outdated? And then I had to stop and think, and it sort of was coming in relation that we should be getting rid of like the Great Gatsby and, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, like out of high schools. And so they were really sort of looking at, sexist tones or racist tones, in all these books. And I understand that they are not really sort of like nice topics. But you know what? Society has changed. The way we treat each other has changed. But it made me stop and go, well, if things are outdated, what is the cutoff? Like, is it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? So much has changed even since I was a child in how we view each other in society. And if we look at this and what is outdated, then, we have to start looking at chucking out Jane Austen, the Brontes, like Great Gatsby, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, the Grimm and Anderson fairy tales, the Little House on the Prairie books, Anna Green Gables, Little Women. It's enough to give me cold sweats. We should be reading these books, and we should be reading them to our children. We can use all these outdated books to be teaching our children. We teach them how society has changed. We teach them how values have changed, how we value people, how we value each other, male to female, different cultures. I love talking about it, like with my girls, or when I've been teaching with other children, like, hey, is this how we should be talking to each other when we look at the way the characters interact? And then we can relate it to today. And I just think that's great. What a great way to get discussions going. All of these things that we can be using to get our children to think and to learn and to really start sorting through these things as well, to know what they think, to know their opinions. And so, you know what? We can't cut out these books. Now, I want to give you an example. This is still one of my favorite authors, and part of me is like, I apologize, Enid Blyton, for using you as an example. But Enid Blyton was a British author, and her books were written like very late 1930s, about 1939 to about 1962. So we're looking at post-World War II and all the changes that were happening then. And as you look at the language that was being used and how the characters interact and all of those sorts of different things, you know what? Yes, they're outdated, but I still love these books. I mean, these were mine when I was little. And that's just some of them. I have a whole box full of them. And then they've actually started reprinting, so they can't be that bad, can they? Really? If we look at it now, you'd be like, whoa, those books are entirely sexist. Because there is, I can't remember which of the famous five, love all the famous five books. You have Julian, Dick, and Anne, brothers and a sister. George, or Georgina, their cousin, and Timmy the dog makes the fifth. But George wants to be a boy, and so keeps her hair short and stuff. And there's this time when, who was it? When Dick looks at George and says, oh, George, you're almost as good as a boy. Now, looking at lines like that, we could just chuck away, like the whole book. Oh, we could really be using that with our children and discussing, is that right? Is she almost as good as a boy? No, what she is, and look at how we can be talking to each other. Use that as an example of, we can do these things. We can treat each other with respect, like all of that. Dick didn't mean anything by it. It was just like part of that culture and society. But my girls are actually been loving a lot of the Enid Blyton books. We've been reading through The Secret Seven. And you know what? Yes, they're 5. And we have great discussions. We talk about the character interactions and we talk about, is that something that we really should say to somebody else? And should the boys really talk down to the girls like that? Is it really only the girls that do like the washing up and all the housework and the boys get to sit back? Is this right? Is that not right? Look at how it was then. And how is it now? Yes, they're only 5, but I'm watching their level of understanding growing. And I love that as they're making these connections between history and the present about people and how people were treated then and how we should be treating each other now. And I love that. You know what? Honestly, if we were looking at outdated books, I'd have to get rid of all of these. Actually, pretty much most of my beloved book collection. And so I'm never going to stop reading them, Enid Blyton. You know, even if she does have gollywogs in her books, we can explain what those dolls were and why they're inappropriate now. But it was part of culture then. So to that person that asked, should we be reading outdated books? Yes. Yes, please do. Don't stop. Read them. Enjoy them. Thank you so much for watching today. And hey, what are some of your favorite outdated books? Why don't you shoot me a comment below and let me know what your favorite books are? And if you like these videos and want to just see them continue, then you could perhaps join us through Patreon and become one of our champions. You can check out the link below, or you can go to learningthis.life and click on the champions button.